Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of ARPchives Live. This is our happy hour Labor Day kickoff. I have my water martini right here in honor. I want everyone to welcome Lisa Bella Donna. We have been talking about this for a long time, so it is so awesome to actually have her here. It's amazing. And I want to say a few things. First, about the video that you just saw. This was Prelude, and the photography, the still photography, the landscape photography is by Tristan Whitney Weary, and we will talk a little bit more about the photographs and Prelude and some of the other pieces for a moment. I just want to make a couple of announcements before we give Lisa the stage. First of all, this is a fundraiser. We have not been doing fundraisers for a while, but we are working on some wonderful projects, including on September 26th, we're proud to announce the first ARP 2500 webinar, and there will be an event and details coming this weekend about it. We have some surprise guests, and it's going to be an awesome event. So we are trying to raise money to get the software and get that working. We have a lot of people involved. We are also going to be doing a series of videos, interviews that have to do with the 2500 specifically. We're working with Google Arts and Culture Project, and we have some online educational programs coming your way. So there's a lot of great stuff. Anyway, I just want to say a few words about Lisa. I met Lisa as one of the most dedicated and friendly people that initially on the ARP Facebook page that reached out to me and was trying to tell me how dedicated she was to my father's legacy. And when she showed me her email address, which I won't say unless she wants to, but it has a little ARP element in it that said, "Oh yeah, she's the real deal. She's really into this. This is great." So we've after a couple of who's and found we knew some people in common. We also found out that we have a lot in common besides the synth world. We can talk about Bach and Metallica in the same sentence and feel really good about it, and love of nature and whatnot. We've spent some great moments in Asheville with Michelle and visiting other people, and at NAMM. So while I wish I was there in person to do a studio tour, broadcasting out from there, this is the next best thing. So again, welcome. All right, Lisa, how you doing?
Hi, Dina. I'm great. Thanks for having me on this program. I'm extremely honored to do it, of course, and I'm just always super happy to spend any time with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, one of the things that I'm really impressed about that a lot of people may not know is that you're a multi-instrumentalist. So I think you play just about everything. I mean, you play keyboards, you play drums, you play guitar. I assume you play bass too. So, wow, how did you get into synthesizers? Tell us a little bit about your musical journey.
Well, I started out as a music listener, and my parents were both very avid music listeners and listened to a pretty wide variety of music. And for me, with synthesizers, it started with my mother's great love of Gary Wright's music, with his album The Dreamweaver and Light of Smiles. And she used to say, and this is in the 70s, is that this is what the future sounds like. And that always kind of stuck with me. As time went on, my mom remarried to a really nice gentleman who had an extremely knowledgeable, eclectic music taste. And he played me Wendy Carlos's Switched on Bach album and Weather Report, Heavy Weather, and that was really, those elements combined pretty much kicked me off in that direction. So, but yeah, I spent many years as a session musician on the road and in the studio playing a variety of instruments. But when I would come home, I was always constantly working on this synthesis aspect of my muse and just trying to get better each time. And I'm still doing that, really. But now I've been able to capture the sort of focus and momentum with synthesis that I've always really have worked for. And so now I don't necessarily, there's not enough time. But yeah, I spent many years as a jazz drummer and a session keyboard player of many kinds of music, guitarist and bassist, and producer, engineer, sound installation work,
Wow.
you name it. Got to pay the bills. So.
It's what you do. It
allowed me to gain a really wide dimension of awareness of what people, how people react to music and what their musical intentions are. So that I kind of got used to really, I should rephrase that. I really became infatuated with that process, putting myself in many different musical and social demographics and seeing if I couldn't still connect and find circulation with listeners.
It's almost to me like how Anthony Bourdain exposed himself to so many different types of palates and foods and this, and then
exactly.
This exploration. It's like a palette that you can draw from different colors, different walks of sound, walks of life, walks of sound. I noticed recently some aspects of some sequences that felt very classical, actually, and knowing that you like classical music as well as jazz, I found that really interesting. So I just want to let everyone know we are going to have a live concert shortly. I want to have gives people some time to get here because I know we all have different time zones and different parameters of obligations. So I want to talk a little bit more, and then I'm going to play one of my favorite pieces called Palomo. It's about a friend of ours, and tell us about the album and about the inspiration, because this is one of your newer releases, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's this year, in fact. The album is called Sonata for Loudspeakers, and it was a concept that I've had for many, many years. And it features a lot of compositions that I sort of slowly composed over long periods of time, but sort of in the fact of conceptually, traveling a lot. When I used to be able to have these cool pockets of time where I could just sit and conceptualize how I would compose a certain piece of electronic music. And the goal was to sort of have it resonate in the cathode, so to speak. And then by the time I would get home and settled and start patching stuff up, I would see if it really matched up to my compositional intentions. And so the thing with Sonata for Loudspeakers, it's really a collection of that kind of writing. And I'm really glad to finally have the opportunity to release it. It's a long album. It's a double-length album and is sort of intended to be more of electronic meditation. And some of the pieces are very dimensional and not always as harmonically developed, but then there's some that are. And the piece Palomo is for a dear friend of ours who is also a lifelong ARP and ARP 2600 musician, an artist, and sound explorer. He's just a very beautiful soul. His name is Julian, and he's just been a great friend and a great inspiration over the years. And when I had the opportunity to record the Palomo, which was intended to be for ARP 2500 and 2 ARP 2600s. And so I had the opportunity to do this at a place in Philadelphia called EMEAP, which stands for Electronic Music Education and Preservation Project. I had a brief residency there, and it was a great experience, and I had the opportunity to realize this piece.
Yeah,
it was a great experience.
All right, let's play an excerpt of it. It's a long piece, so we're just going to play a short excerpt because we want to have some Lisa live, but I wanted to share this with everybody. All right, Palomo. Wow, one of my favorites. Oh my goodness. And you can really hear some of those elements of the 2500. There's something very magical about that instrument. And while I may be biased, I really believe it to be true. Was that your first time using it?
The 2500?
Yes.
To that extent, yes. Oh yeah, it was an all-day affair to. I think it took most of the day just to program all that stuff. Yeah, what was used on that, and that's pretty much a live recording,
Wow.
more or less. So yeah, we had the 2500 going out in stereo. We had two 2600s and an ARP sequencer, and then the other side I had a ARP string ensemble and a ARP Pro soloist. So there's time where I'm playing the ARP Pro soloist and the 2500.
All right,
We're
we're just definitely gonna have to like have you show us your gear in a moment. But I just love if you would share that one story you shared with me about getting your first ARP 2600 because it's just such a cool story, and it just shows the dedication of a musician trying to get her gear and the extent that you did, and look what you've done with it. So tell us a little bit.
So at the end of the 80s, I had the great opportunity to start putting together my electronic music studio. And very quickly, I was able to buy an ARP Omni. That was the first piece I bought. And an ARP Odyssey. And then a Space Echo and a phaser and a few other things. And that's kind of how I really started. But then after hearing Heavy Weather by Weather Report, hearing Joe Zawinul
Oh yeah.
do all these colors and all this stereo information, it really sparked an interest. And then, this is kind of strange, but it is very true. I would have been 18 or 19 at the time. I had this very intense astral projection, and not drug related or anything like that. Just a very personal experience. And in this experience, I heard this myriad of sounds. And after reading about the 2600, as much as I could find out back then, it was very difficult to find any information. I was on the hunt. So I found this guy in the back of Keyboard Magazine whose title was Synth Locator. And,
I
and
need
he ended up being a very important part of my early development in terms of acquiring, and installing the right instruments for what I wanted to do. And so, I met with him, and he also had Mellotrons, which I wanted to record really badly. So he let me come up and record his two Mellotrons, and I recorded every note, and take it back and do, put notes together and make chords and lines, all this crazy stuff that I would have to go through just to have a simple orchestration. Because samplers just really sounded like samplers, and that wasn't really my kind of art. And so I told him very passionately, I have to have an ARP 2600. I have to have one. And, I could see him looking at me just like, you're adorable. And he's like, okay. And so, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months go by and the phone rings and it's him. He's like, I have an ARP 2600 for you. And I was like, okay, awesome. How much is it? And even then, it was still a lot of money for, that time. And I said, well, would you be willing to allow me to make a down payment on it or pay half? He's like, sure, no problem. So I take the 4-hour drive and I go up and I try it, and it's revolutionary sounding. It's just amazing. I give him the money, and he sends me back with the ARP 2600 owner's manual. And that's when it all really started to come together for me and started to really get my mind working at a higher frequency of developing synthesizer skills. And so, I was like doing stuff on my Odyssey the best I could with the 2600 manual and just making sense of realizing the, just the whole art of the signal path of that instrument. And so it took about 4 months, maybe 6 months, and it got down to the wire, and he called me. He's like, hey, he's like, look, I got Lenny Kravitz on the other line. He really wants to buy this 2600. Are you going to be able to come up and get this thing? I'm like, I'll be up tomorrow to get it. And so I made a few phone calls, and I sold my car. I had a Volkswagen Wolfsburg edition Rabbit, and I sold it that day. And I think I sold another instrument. I can't remember. It's been a long time ago. And I hitched a ride up, and I got my 2600 and came back after 8 hours of driving.
Did you hitchhike with a 2600 back?
I didn't hitchhike,
okay.
But I called a friend. I called a responsible friend.
Okay.
Because I wanted it to come back safely. And so, yeah, it was really amazing. And it came with the 2-voice keyboard. And yeah, it really changed my life.
Is that what we see behind you? That's it? That's her?
This is her.
Okay.
And I've had another vintage one, an earlier model actually, before the musical note logo, years ago. So there was a pair of them for the longest time, and that was really a huge cut of my teeth of synthesis. But it eventually had to go, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right, show us your gear, and then I'd love to hear some. You're going to do an improv, I understand.
There's gear everywhere.
There's gear everywhere.
I'm kind of boxed in here because I have another project on the other side of the camera that I'm working on. But what I have is my main centerpiece is this system behind me, which is a vintage ARP-2600, and then a 2600 TTSH, as they're called, and that's one of the first line of them, and it's been modified in a few ways by a dear friend and synthesist named Ben Behorn. And so those are the ARPs that I have in this system, and then I have a 12-module mother system by Moog Music, and it is, this entire thing is pretty much, things that I've dreamt about, and now I get to, really get to realize some of the compositions and just sort of approaches of music that I've been wanting to take for many years. And the Moogs really bring this whole other game to this kind of synthesis, where there is analog signal path, but there is also a great deal of digital control that is very useful in the facilitation of creating very, patches that your hearts desire.
I love the integration of the different instruments. When I saw you play live for the first time at the Moog Mentum, and I'm standing with Michelle, and I saw the Moogs and the ARPs together, and I'm sure she remembers this. I was just weeping. I love seeing them together. I think it's so cool. I think it's really cool.
Well, I love seeing you both together. that experience, that experience was so special to me that it's almost hard for me to talk about it because I get kind of weepy. But watching you two, watching me play that concert was very, very much in the top 5 experiences of my life. Just the miraculousness of the universe was very evident just in that moment. And it was such a privilege and pleasure to get to stretch out for 90 minutes in front of the 2 amazing daughters of my 2 favorite synthesizer creators, and that's the truth. So yeah, that was a great experience. Let's hope we can get out of this COVID detention and we can do it again sometime. We
will do it again, and right now we're doing it through the ether. So Michelle's here, Cynthia's here. There's a lot of people that were there that day. So I'm going to stop talking, and what do you think? Are you ready?
Yeah, sure. I have different Moogs ARPs. I have the ARP Omni. I have a pair of those. I have a pair of ARP string ensembles. I have an Odyssey. I have a cabinet that I'm building right now that's not done, but it has 2 ARP sequencers in it. And then I'm going to put a custom synthesizer system that goes with that. And then that will be an extension of this. So it's time for it to start wrapping around a bit. I have Yamaha, old school Yamaha stuff. I have much of the newer Moog instruments, the Matriarch, the mighty Moog 1, which is, to me, one of the most amazing synthesizers made. It's just, you have to sit down and dig into it, and when you do, it's just like, wow. I got Hammond organs, Fender Rhodes, clavinets, the whole bit. I'm getting ready to do this big overhaul in here because I have so much stuff going on at this point, which I'm grateful to say, very grateful to say, but now I've been sort of struck with the dilemma of being able to get to it all. So the next thing for me is I'm having this extremely large studio desk workbench created, and it's going to be a beautiful piece of art on its own. And this is going to allow me to install 64 channels of mixing desk, and this will allow me to have the 2 reel-to-reel setups for my albums, so I can work on my solo albums, at any time. It can always be set up and ready. I'll have the computer system with 16 ins and outs for various projects and teaching. And I'm very excited to get that workflow uncluttered. Because right now I have to sort of patch and unpatch certain things, and it takes up a lot of time that I just don't have. I have the Mellotron, and I love it. It's a dear instrument to me. And tons of tape decks of different makes and models. I really love using magnetic tape. I feel it's a huge part of my process and my art, and I feel like it is an opportunity to commit and to just get on with it. If you really feel that you want to infuse your passion in the music, there's nothing more like knowing that, okay, when this tape runs out, that's it. So try to get it right and try to get it in time. And so that's a big part of how I work. And the drums and the guitars and all that, sadly, are in the closet. Because there's just not been time. So, maybe in the next life or another chapter in this life. We'll see.
All right. So, feel like playing?
Sure, absolutely.
Just to give you a little thrill, there are several people that worked at ARP here, probably at least 5 that I've counted.
Really?
So, yeah. So, I think this is a special thrill to see this music become new and fresh, and this is really exciting. So, not to.
Well, I don't know about that, but we'll see.
All right.
One thing I would like to say before I play is, what's really awesome for me in this is the opportunity to tell you all that we're a part of ARP and are still a part of ARP, how much it's been such a massive part of my life. I mean, it really has. I spent the first 20 years of doing synthesis without giving any care whether anybody heard my music or not. But I spent days and days and days doing nothing but all ARP compositions. And as time goes, I'm going to try to release some of the stuff from years ago that's, that I can stand to be out there. But the important part is the process and getting to understand how special ARP synthesizers had a way of just communicating together, and the way they orchestrated together became a very deep passion of mine. And I hope to have more time as I continue to refurbish some of my ARPs and get them back to 100% to do more records like that in the spirit and support of this foundation, and in respect and in honor of everybody who was a part of it, because it has everything to do with my musical journey, you know. So thank you, ARP people. So let me see here. Let me get a few things turned on.
Okay.
My ARP axe gets a little cranky, so I have to be mindful of her. All right. Let's see what happens. Dina, thank you for having me on this program.
Oh,
I
thank
love
you.
you to pieces. So this is for you. There we go. Cheers.
That was amazing. Wow.
But it's Friday, Thursday.
Wow. Thank you. Oh my goodness.
My pleasure. Sorry the camera's so static. I have an ARP axe, a Moog grandmother, ARP string ensemble, the 2600s, and the Moogs. That's pretty much all I used here.
I love watching you play. You become part of the music. It's really inspiring.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Dina.
yeah. Oh gosh.
I'm in love with all this. This whole opportunity to not only, obviously have a musical or harmonic intention, but to be able to have a sort of sonic palette to choose from like this is, something that's really just been a part of the whole thing for me, So I'm always happy to do it. Every time I get a chance to sit here it's just like turning on water. There's never any resistance at this point in my journey.
And it shows, and it's obvious. I would like to open up the show to the audience. There's a lot of people coming around here. We've had a really, really great response. I don't know if you have any devices on that you can see. People are just digging it. Inspiring, phenomenal performance. So I would love to open it up to all of you. If you would like to ask Lisa some questions. I lost my little bubble. There I am. Okay, great. All right. So, does anyone have any questions or just would like to say a shout out or something to Lisa? We have Ramon saying very inspiring. Nick says phenomenal performance. Knut says wow, indeed. I'm not sure if I'm saying this correctly. Nick Records, gorgeous. I mean, oh, you got some great kudos here.
Wonderful. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to talk about or ask any questions?
Okay, so Cynthia says, Lisa, do you pre-tune before performance?
Oh yes, girl. My studio is in a sunroom, so yeah, I have to tune, and I have to let all of these, warm up for at least 30 minutes to really feel like I'm in touch with what's going on. Especially some of the older instruments, they need a little longer to warm up and to tune, and almost like a string instrument in the way that you sort of tune and retune and sort of gate the keyboards. You go through and get all your keyboard notes gated and get everything working. Run your sliders. There's a sort of protocol like that I'll do before a performance or before a very intensive recording session. When I do my records, I don't have very much time, so I almost treat it like a performance or a concert where I'll come in and just get everything ready to go. And like I said, that's the path of least resistance as much as possible.
Oh gosh, now we have a lot of questions coming. All right, can you tell us a bit about the differences between ARP and Moog instruments?
Absolutely. That's a really great question, and I think it's an awesome thing to talk about. They are very unique in their own ways, their own sort of flavor, I guess. The only reason that when I was coming up, I didn't have anything but other than my Moog Prodigy, which I still have. I still have my Moog Prodigy. She's sitting right here.
Now we get to see.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo!
So it may fall off. So, but yeah, the sound is slightly different in the fact that they just sort of have their own color with the filter and the difference between potentiometers and sliders changes kind of the way that you might approach building a sound or navigating through a sound during a performance, at least for me anyway. Yeah, there's definitely a difference, and I would say, I hope this doesn't come off the wrong way, but I would say that the ARPs are a little less consistent per model than the Moogs. Like the Moogs are, vintage Moogs, modern Moogs. They're pretty consistent all the way through a specific model. Of course, there's idiosyncrasies. I know the message board guys are going to come to get me. So, with the ARPs, they all kind of are different. Like I've had many different ARP axes. I've had different ARP Odysseys, Omnis. There's always something different about them. And I like that. I like the fact that they're not always tuned up the same way or dialed in the same way. And that makes for some interesting selections as a composer, which is mainly what I am as a recording artist. And that's my art. And to be able to have some of those things that are different between them, but yet at the same time they communicate together very easily. It's a lot of fun. The two different vintage 2600s were different in their own way. And that was a blast. And to have those two different things. But mainly, it's all the same thing. Also, it's also just your signal path. Everything kind of attenuates a little bit differently per make and model of different synth companies, but really it's all just an opportunity to make something from nothing, or something from everything, depending on how you look at it.
Actually, this kind of goes along, this could kind of continue the conversation. Glenn from Australia, how would you ever write or create with one synth or a source?
Sure, absolutely. And have on my records. Prelude that you heard earlier is, I believe, just an Odyssey. Oh no, that's an Odyssey on a 2600, my bad. On my first album, live album, just called Live, there is a piece on there that is just a Moog, nothing else. No other instruments, no overdubs, no nothing. And so, yeah, I love to do that too. At this point, like I said, I've been doing this for so long that now I'm excited to have lots of options. And I've been waiting and waiting for years to have this opportunity to do it. So I'm less interested in that now, but I'm always willing to do it. I've done so many gigs with this ARP axe that I have. This thing has been around the world with me, literally. I have toured with this since 1993. And I mean, toured rigorously with it. And it's just always been a huge part of my music. And, I've done full shows with nothing but this and a ping pong delay. And that's it. And I didn't really need anything else. So I suppose at some point I could do that. I'd love to do an album that's just 2600, but it just always changes. These kinds of intentions are awesome, but they always change because I don't necessarily choose what I'm going to write. Usually something happens or I see something, have an experience, and then the goal is to vessel that in any way possible. But yeah, I've done many of times of just one synth. You bet.
And along these lines, there's a lot of questions, so I'm trying to have them work with each other. No, you're doing fine. So Jamie asks, how would you compare the use of the axe versus the 2600?
Well, the 2600 is obviously a lot more complex, and there is a lot more possibility, and there's a lot more power, but at the same time, I have moved people out of their chairs with this ARP axe with the right PA. This thing will kick your butt. It will move walls. It has some of the best low end of any of the synthesizers I have in this studio. And what I love about the ARP axe is that it's all straight across. It's all very easy. There's so many possibilities, even with one oscillator. You have immediate 2 different kinds of waveforms that you can combine, as well as modulators, pulse width, great filter, long envelope, sample and hold, another LFO for the envelope generator, great noise for great sweeping winds and just low spiritual vibration. It's great. But then the 2600 just has something that no other synthesizer has. It's just all there is to it. It has this spirit inside of it. It's a wilderness of electronic possibility. And you have such an amazing stereo signal path. And even though that many of the things are normal, and starting it from normal, it instigates another possibility than with a classic synthesizer that you have to start with nothing. So it's a unique way of creating synthesis. But the 2600 has a sort of humanness that I have not found in any other synthesizer. It sounds like a voice. It sounds like the trees speaking. It sounds like anything you really want to spend time enough to create on it. It really has a realism that is really amazing, that this is 1972 technology. It's insane, and I use it every day still. So
Well, like I say, a good instrument should pass the test of time. I mean, a Stradivarius is a Stradivarius and has been so for hundreds of years. So, yeah. Nick Grimshaw wants to know, were the sequences entered beforehand, or was that a live arpeggiator?
both. So yeah, the very beginning sequence was the Moog grandmother next to the ARP axe. And that was an arpeggiated sequence, so I could change inversions with my improvisation on the ARP axe and the ARP string ensemble. And then when I switched over to this system, I have, I can't remember, maybe 3 sequences going on. And I have a sequence going to the top 2600, and then I have 3 other sequences going to this in one way or the other. So in this sense, this particular sequence is really just the Moog 32, Mother 32, going into the mixer of VCO2 because I have this off for modulation, but I can still use this as a mixer section and go through the filter. So it's really awesome to have any sort of whatever you want to do, it's there. Just patch it up. But yeah, it's a blend of both. I like being able to use both sequences and arpeggiations because my muse will sometimes tell me to do something different. I don't always want the same thing over and over. So, that happens a lot in my music. But I love sequences, and I love combining them and interweaving them. Love it.
So there's 2 questions that I think could be answered together in a way. Adrian Heredia says, is there an ARP you would like to be resurrected via reproduction? And then Glenn Darby wants to know if there's one synth or piece of hardware that you would love to own. So talk about desires and dreams of what gear would be ultimate, and it doesn't have to be an ARP, by the way, about the resurrection. I mean, I think both questions are really interesting. So.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, it depends on who makes it. It depends on who really wants to do it right. And that's what I'm waiting for more than anything else. Is someone, if they're going to do a copy of something, well then, let's get a musician and a technician in there so we can make something that's authentic. So that's the real answer for me, is just something authentic. I mean, 2600s on the reg would be awesome. I want 4 of these at some point, at least. Just for the way I look at music, it's such a part of my process. So to have 4 of them would be beautifully flexible for what I do. And now I have two more ARP sequencers. So I have a total of 3 ARP sequencers, which is a beautiful instrument in itself. And Antonis makes what I feel is the best of the 2600s so far. But then again, I still have to get anything in my studio and run it through the paces before I'm going to say, hey, this thing's great.
You got to get your hands on it, huh?
Yeah, I mean, the string ensemble is as simple as it may seem. It's one of my most used instruments. So I would love to have, a string ensemble that's authentic and yet modern at the same time. It'd be amazing to be able to have sort of like what the Selena string synthesizer, which is made by Selena, but it has the ARP Explorer in it. And so being able to have, basically a pro soloist or an explorer inside of a string ensemble is pretty much my dream come true. So that could be a long answer.
By the way, Tony Gutierrez is here and he's sending lots of love.
Hi, Tony. Love you.
Great. This is interesting. Someone is trying to hack the stream, but I'm not letting them.
Awesome.
Yeah, some kind of weird something or other. Anyway, doesn't seem to be showing up here, so that's I'm just seeing it on the stream. Let's see. Did I miss some questions? I'm sure I did.
They have to come over.
I think we've gotten just about all of them. Did I forget anyone? Are there some questions that we covered? Somebody said Behringer's hacking. Okay. So.
Well, they're not doing anything else.
So, at this point, I am wondering. Oh, good. We're tag teaming, by the way. One of our board, Rich Formidoni, got rid of the hacker.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
And it's brought up some interesting. Oh, I did. There was one interesting question. It was about inspiration during the time of COVID, and I'm trying to find that. Have you found that COVID has any impact on your creative process?
Absolutely. Both positive and negative. It's just a different time for everybody, and myself included. I've done a pretty good job of staying sane, but it's been a challenge. You bet. There's been a lot of, any sort of infrastructure that you've worked hard to create kind of has been blown out. So just sort of trying to navigate that, yet keep up with the quota of the regular world that hasn't stopped for me this whole time. I have basically just been working this whole experience, which is great in one way because it keeps your mind off of the sort of doomsday aspect of it. But, at the same time, on a positive note, this is the summer that I've got to spend with my daughter. And that's the most important thing of all. So I've had more time with my daughter this summer than I have since she was, little. So.
Oh, would you talk about your latest release? Is a release you did with your daughter?
It is. I'm going to move where I'm located here. Give me just a second.
Okay.
So. All right. Let's see my hand for a minute. Hand of doom. Yeah, so there we go. It's more comfortable. Okay, so the last record I just did was called Pilgrimage, and it was a very fun conceptual record that I did with my daughter. And my daughter is almost 9 years old.
That's the best age. Oh, what a great age.
And she is just bubbling with so much creativity and imagination and wonder, and her whole way she processes information is just beautiful to witness. and inspires me every day. And we did this record based off these storyboards that she has been composing over, the whole summer. And we've been trying to get out and do a lot of hiking and outdoor stuff, as well as reading a lot of books together, watching films. So all basically based around wildlife stuff. So it's been awesome to create something like that with her. And she has her cameo playing ARP string ensemble on it. And she plays most of the ARP string ensemble that is on it. So it's kind of awesome,
You're cut off a little bit. There you are. Yeah, there you go. Okay. A little bit more. Yeah. Actually, it's when I was her age, that was the instrument that I was most drawn to, the pro soloist and the string ensemble.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I know I drew all those pictures of the complicated modulars, but when it came to playing, I was instant gratification, and I just really enjoyed the immediacy of those. It's what a joy. Your face lights up when you talk about her. It's so great.
She is a pleasure to raise. She's a great kid, and she has brought so much clarity into my life, and just sort of, it's hard to describe. It just sort of took away all of the unwanted frequencies out of my way of living. So it was a really great gift to have her in this world with me, and it's an honor to try to do my best as a parent. You know how it is. It's like, there's no manual, and just try to do your best. And, I've never been a parent that tries to shove music down her throat, or I don't have any specific regimen, but it's always here for her. And for when she wants to come down and be creative with me, or just with it on her own, it's all here, and she has a synthesizer in her bedroom that she plays with occasionally. And so, yeah, she's into it a little bit.
Which synthesizer is that?
It's a Yamaha. When Moog were here doing the Matriarch video, she came down to the session at one point, and she was like, yeah, this looks nice. She's like, I got a synthesizer. She's like, but I play Yamaha synthesizer. Sorry, guys.
All right, she's getting into the gear thing already. All right. Yeah. So we got one more question I have, and then we're going to give sort of a last call for questions, because we're definitely way over, but that's fine. Bryant Hazard asked, what's your favorite post-processing equipment or boxes?
Oh, man. Oh, I love... I love really good equalizers, parametric equalizers, and I love phase shifters. I have a super old, early version of 1178 Uri compressor, and even without the compression, it just makes stuff open up and have particle. I love tape machines, and that's a huge part of the coloring on my records. I love the Avalanche Run by Earthquaker Devices. I think that's one of the best sounding things ever made. I love Lexicon 200s, Roland Space Echoes. What else? Oh, it goes on and on. EMT 250 reverbs is just to die for. New Neighbor Inspire Tri-Chorus is amazing, and I've been using that on the 2600s a lot recently. Yeah, it goes on and on. I love gear. I love stuff. So yeah, that's some of it. Tascam 388, which I'm, is my work desk right now, but it also gets used a lot on the records. I did an album last year called Afternoon Dreams that is heavy electronic music, a lot of synthesizers, all done on this machine. It sounds amazing with synthesizers. And all through the years of my all ARP albums were all done on Tascam 388. In fact, I'll take this time to plug the album that should be on the Alan R. Perlman website, an album called Snowy Dreamscapes that I did back in '93. and it's all ARP synthesizer, nothing else. There's no other instruments, no other keyboards, synthesizers. And it's my first real, what I feel is, representative of what I do now, so.
We'll be featuring it tomorrow. Tomorrow's a Bandcamp Friday. For those of you who don't know what that is, every so often Bandcamp picks a Friday where they don't take any percentage of the proceeds. All of it goes to the person that's putting it out, the artist. So Lisa, David Barron, and David Bash have all donated music to us, and we're going to open up that tomorrow. So I'll do a little plug. So definitely come by and check that out. Definitely also check out Pilgrimage and Lisa's new stuff. It's pretty amazing.
I did an album called Odyssey for live acts in Argentina, and they're amazing people. And that album is on Spotify through them for you all. Wow. And it has a lot of awesome ARPs on the second side. There's a 20-minute piece called Hero Hero, and it has lots of 2600 and string ensemble and all that good stuff.
You share the link with us, and I'll post it on the page.
I will.
All right, so 2 more questions, and we're going to have to end. Cynthia would like to know, how many hours a day do you play?
Well, I'm in the studio probably between 5 and 6 a.m. until about 7:30, 8:30 at night each day. I would say that's Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday, depending on what's going on. And, I try to take some time off. And also, part of that is I take time out to do a little bit of stuff with my daughter. And next week I start homeschooling my daughter. So I'll probably start, at 3:30 or 4 in the morning and then continue on. So that's a typical day for me. Depends on what's going on and how much work is on the table. But that's what it's all about. That's the life. If you're gonna really do it full time, it's what it really is.
Yeah. All right. So the last question I see here, and again, I think I have to stop, is if you had to. Actually, I think I know the answer to this. I think the questioner. If you had to choose to record on tape or DAW, which would you prefer?
Tape.
Yeah.
No problem.
As you said earlier, it's a commitment.
I gotta make a choice. That one's easy, and I'm well stocked. I'm ready to go.
All right.
I'm ready when it all ends. I'll still be recording until there's no more electricity.
Okay, Cynthia's making jokes. She says she loves that answer, but she would have carpal tunnel syndrome, if she played that long.
Girl, what are we gonna do with you?
Oh no, that's Cynthia. You got to blame her for that. Okay.
Love her pieces. Love you, girl.
All right, everyone. So we're gonna wrap this up. Just as a reminder, this is a fundraiser. The link to the donation page is pinned to the top of this. We really appreciate anything that you can give. We're working towards some tangible projects. I did forget to mention that we now have a location for the ARP synthesizer collection, which is going to be available to the public at a recording studio. Until the facility is open, we've been asked to keep the location quiet, but it's it's in Boston. Very, very excited. It's a state-of-the-art studio. It's going to be actually as safe as an inside building could be. They have individual ventilation for each room, ultraviolet disinfectant for mics and things that people hold. It sounds really neat, and we're really excited about this. This is a project that what we are striving for is that all of you would be able to come in and play an ARP or two for very little cost, and we're going to have artisan residencies and things like that. So these are some of the projects we're working for. It is happy hour. I have been drinking my water, but I just want a shout out to all of the wonderful synth makers. I got my sequential circuits. Is it showing? I can't see anymore. My sequential circuits shot class. So I'm going to call it a night.
Oh,
Everyone enjoy the weekend. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Enjoy your life. Play your synthesizers. And hope to see you soon. We'll have a visit from EMIAP in a couple of weeks with the ARP 2500, and that is a prelude to our seminar. Bye-bye, everybody. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to get that outro. There we go.